right. Hi. Welcome, everyone, back to our podcast, Just a Couple of Naturopaths. I'm Tegan, your resident naturopath.
And I'm Andie. So I am your go-to naturopath and nutritionist. And today we're diving into a topic that we both get asked about a lot. And honestly, we both get a little bit overexcited about it. Inflammation and what we mean by anti-inflammatory.
Yeah, I think this is a good topic. I had someone literally the other day say, Tegan, you talk about inflammation all the time, but I don't actually know what you mean by anti-inflammatory. So I said, well, let's do a podcast on it.
Let's dive into it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then we should all be across it. We'll all know what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
Just a brief introduction. If you're looking for some support, both Andie and I are naturopaths, and Andie's a nutritionist as well, and we both consult online. So wherever you are in the world, we can support you. Just message us on Instagram or our respective websites. We'll link them all in the show notes below. And yeah, we would love to chat and help you with your goals.
Absolutely. So I guess just an overview of what we're going to cover in this episode or next few episodes. And it's called Inflammation and Anti-Inflammatory Approaches. So we'll just make a quick mention of some of our upcoming episodes. So they will include what is the biggest contributor to inflammation, what are some of the classic signs of inflammation, and we're going to have a look at the link between alcohol consumption and inflammation. So that's what's coming up.
I think that last one will be a really good one. I know that's something that we both feel really passionate about.
Yeah.
So that'll definitely be a good episode to listen to.
It's controversial and there is some conflicting evidence around it. So it'll be a good discussion.
Yeah, definitely. So we're going to jump into our first part of our podcast today, and that is what is inflammation. So Andie, do you want to start us off with some of the basics? How would you describe inflammation in simple terms?
Yeah, so I'll try and explain it in the simplest terms possible. So inflammation happens when your body responds to something, and that something is something like an infection or an injury. And it's what we call the body's innate immunity, which steps in. And for the most part, that reaction, the inflammatory response, is a protective factor. So it induces or causes increased swelling, redness, heat, pain, all of those things that let us know and let the body know that something is wrong, basically. And that's a really important response and something we need when something happens acutely. Then there's chronic inflammation, which chronic is ongoing, and conditions like arthritis, heart disease, stroke, cancer, asthma, type 2 diabetes, inflammatory bowel diseases, allergies, obesity, autoimmune diseases can all cause inflammation and also cause inflammation to become chronic inflammation. And on the other hand, inflammation can be a cause of that as well. Chronic inflammation doesn't have to start from acute inflammation either. It is sometimes where it starts, but they can also be independent processes. And the bottom line is that the chronic inflammation or the unhelpful response after we've had the helpful response is interrupting conditions for good health. So that's why it is a problem. So I probably went a little bit too far there, but Tegan, do you want to just delve a little bit further into acute versus chronic inflammation?
Yeah, definitely. So we think about acute inflammation and chronic inflammation being two separate things right now. So first, when we have a stimulus. So a stimulus could be that, you've brushed up against a tree branch and you've cut yourself. Okay, the immune helper cells are going to do their job at healing and cause inflammation, which is good inflammation. We need that because we need it to heal. Now, of course, the stimulus has ended, so we're not going to continue to walk up against that branch anymore, are we? We're done with that. We're going to end the stimulus and we return to good health. So that's acute inflammation. We need that. Chronic inflammation, on the other hand, is when we have an ongoing stimulus. So say, this is just example, this is not going to happen, but you keep cutting yourself with that same branch. Okay, that stimulus is ongoing. So the immune helper cells, they're going to do their job at healing, but the ongoing stimulus is still happening. So there's more immune helper cells trying to, heal and increase inflammation, and that then changes the cells. So because you've got that repetitive cycle of increased disease, you have that ongoing stimulus, and that cycle just keeps happening over and over. So that can be things like the list that Andie mentioned before, is conditions like arthritis, heart disease, stroke, cancer, asthma, type 2 diabetes. All of those can be that ongoing stimulus, and there's obviously a lot more. So Andie, can you let our listeners know what are the common signs and symptoms of inflammation, and what are some of the conditions as well?
Yeah, so I guess some of the common signs and symptoms of, I guess both types of inflammation, redness, heat, swelling, pain, often a loss of function of whatever area is experiencing inflammation. And that includes a loss of function, just overall, if it's system-wide in the body as well. And so some examples, as we said, we did state some examples, and those are caused by chronic inflammation, or they prolong or they contribute to chronic inflammation. And so some of these type 2 diabetes, inflammation, stress, cardiovascular diseases, infection, so ongoing infection, allergies, arthritis, and then we have some risk factors as well, like diet, aging, which is a risk factor in itself, and we have digestive issues, disturbed sleep, exposure to environmental toxins, so also obesity, being physically inactive, smoking, depression, and we have some of those inflammatory conditions that we forget might be inflammatory, like, for example, psoriasis. So, Tegan, what do you think are the biggest contributors to inflammation in today's world?
Yeah, so there's a few. Diet is a major one. So we're talking about things like processed foods, added sugars, trans fats, alcohol. Big one is poor gut health as well. So if you're eating foods that are not keeping your gut happy or making your gut quite unhappy, that is definitely going to contribute to inflammation. You've got things like your lifestyle factors. So stress is a huge one, and we're all stressed at the moment. Almost everyone I speak to has some level of stress happening at the moment. Poor mental health, lack of sleep is a huge contributing factor, and just that sedentary lifestyle and behavior, when you're sitting a lot, can definitely contribute to inflammation. Think about if you've had some kind of pain, whether it's your knees being sore or your hip, and you sit and you sit and you sit, and it gets worse. Environmental factors is another one that people often forget about. Pollution, allergens as well, and then diseases that we are potentially predisposed to, so through genetics and family history, that you're more likely to potentially have some of these conditions. So for example, myself definitely have a family history of like allergies, hay fever, eczema, asthma. It's definitely in my family, and I am very unfortunate to get some of those, but I could be worse. And And what about yourself, Andie? Is there anything that you are predisposed? This is a word that I cannot say. Predisposed to.
Predisposed. Yes. So I have a family history of osteoarthritis, and in fact, I do have the beginnings of osteoarthritis. So it's something that I feel like at this point I'm managing well, or I manage well. It's still something that I am predisposed to. So it's something that I'm lucky to be aware of, and hopefully can manage well. And one of those ways is through anti-inflammatory measures.
Yeah. Absolutely. We're so lucky to have done all the study that we've done to look after our own bodies.
We really are.
And of course, everybody else as well. But
we really are. And just, to know what we know, and then seek other health professionals as well. I've certainly spoken to sports doctors, exercise physiologists, physiotherapists who are up to date with the research on these conditions. So they don't have to be the doom and gloom that maybe they were a generation ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're both very much advocates for both sides of medicine too, and using both forms of medicine, natural, holistic medicine, nutritional medicine, but also Western medicine as well, and having that collaborative approach to conditions like these is really, really important.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
Yeah. So, Andie, would you like to talk about the anti-inflammatory diet and lifestyle and give us a definition of anti-inflammatory or anti-inflammation? What does that mean?
Yeah, I would love to. So, an anti-inflammatory substance or action is something that reduces inflammation in the body. So that's a very simple definition. Inflammation, again, is a natural immune response to injuries or infections, etc. And it's characterized by, again, redness, swelling, heat, pain. And so while the acute inflammation is a normal and protective response, chronic inflammation can lead to, as well as being caused by, the various health issues that we've mentioned. And so anti-inflammatory agents can be found in certain foods, medications, and lifestyle practices. And they help reduce this chronic inflammatory response and promote overall health, overall anti-inflammatory health, which can be a huge protective factor against some of these conditions that are lifestyle related or genetically linked. So, what do you do in practice for your clients, Tegan, when they want to or they need to reduce inflammation?
Yeah, a few things. Firstly, I have to apologise if you can hear a cat meowing in the background. My cat is just going absolutely bananas at the moment. So I don't know if the microphone's picking that up or not.
Well, pet ownership has anti-inflammatory benefits, Tegan. So
thank you. Yes, I love that. But he also tries to wake me up at night. So I don't know. Maybe it evens out. They're very cute. He makes me, I've got two cats. One of them is she's aloof, but he makes me smile all the time, but not at 3 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah. Oh, a little bit like my kids, Tegan.
Yeah.
I relate right there.
Yeah.
Interrupting our anti-inflammatory sleep.
Exactly. Yeah, it's rude, really. So, look, definitely the key components of an anti-inflammatory diet is something that I speak to all of my clients that have some kind of component of inflammation. The first one is whole foods. So thinking about your fruits, your veggies, nuts, seeds, whole grains. Healthy fats is a big one. So omega-3 fatty acids, fish, flaxseed, walnuts are great examples. Eating a rainbow is, I think, like my favorite thing to say. Eat a rainbow. Eat a rainbow of fruits and veggies. So think about your 5, 2, and more. So 5 veggies, 2 fruits. If you can get more in, awesome. Make them really colourful. Reducing animal-based products. So we're not saying that these need to be completely eliminated, but it's just reducing the amount of meat and like milk, cheese that we are consuming, replacing it with other foods that are going to help reduce inflammation. Legumes is a really good one, and the Western world's just forgotten source of nutrition. So legumes are fantastic, full of fibre, protein. You can do so much with them as well. They're very versatile. Spices and herbs, literally more the merrier. Like add in as much as you can. If you love all of that flavor, awesome. Add more in. So think along the lines of turmeric, ginger, garlic are great options. And then herbal tinctures as well, which, we're both naturopaths, so we love talking about herbal tinctures. And there's a lot of things that we can add into your herbal formulation too, like curcumin. So that's the active ingredient of turmeric. Ginger, we can't add in cannabis. Would love to be able to add in cannabis oil, but we're not there yet. We'll get there, hopefully.
You could ask your GP about it, though.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's right, Andie. Yeah, you could definitely ask your GP about it. Devil's claw is another one. Rosemary. So all of these foods, you can not only, not all of these herbs, you can not only use as food, but you can also have in herbal tinctures. And then avoiding inflammatory foods. So refined sugars, processed meats, artificial additives. Many of them have a direct relationship to inflammation and also block out other nutrients that may contribute to poor gut health too. So, Andie, is there anything that I've missed that you do in clinical practice that you talk to your clients about?
Yeah, well, I guess the rest are just the 1%ers. And very timely that you just had a drink of water then, Tegan, because I do talk to clients about the importance of hydration. So if your body and cells are hydrated, we know that nutrients and blood flow are circulating properly throughout your body. Your electrolytes are balanced and joints are lubricated so that there's the synovial fluid in your joints is at appropriate levels. So that can all really help with hydration. Can also help the cells do their work as well, which is very important for the immune system. And also, I guess, incorporating anti-inflammatory drinks. So we know that lots of cultures that live till they're more than 100 or are more likely to live till 100 or beyond drink a lot of herbal teas. So extracting good herbs and drinking them. So things like green teas and herbal teas contain constituents in them that are directly anti-inflammatory.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
I love learning about these cultures that I want to live to 100 or more. I want to be able to do that. So hearing about these places that there's a huge population over that age, and it's usually in the Mediterranean.
Yes.
Because this is the type of food they eat, isn't it?
Yeah. And a lot of the factors are around food, but it's not the be-all, end-all. It's also around lifestyle and it's a very anti-inflammatory overall lifestyle.
Yeah. So, Andie, what are some of the common anti-inflammatory foods that you like to use?
Yeah. So, we're going to get really back to basics here because there's no real secret to it, is there? So, fruits and vegetables would be top of my list for anti-inflammatory foods. So if you're not even getting that bare minimum 5 and 2 per day, try and get there. So things like berries, leafy greens, tomatoes, and avocados, which also are obviously a source of good fats as well, contain very high anti-inflammatory constituents. And then healthy fats, as I mentioned, so foods rich in omega-3 fatty acids like salmon, walnuts, and flax seeds. And we'll mention avocados again. Spices and herbs, turmeric, ginger, garlic, they all have well-known anti-inflammatory properties. I love to grate some ginger into a stir fry or something like that. I find that the easiest way to use it if it's fresh. But yeah, that kind of leads us also to practical suggestions on how can we incorporate anti-inflammatory foods into our diet.
Yeah, so some of my favorite things to do are smoothies. And I was laughing with a few clients today about this because I love smoothies until I've had enough of them. then I don't have them for like a month or two. But they are so good to use to incorporate more anti-inflammatory foods into your diet. So adding berries, spinach, flax seeds into your morning smoothies, avocado into your morning smoothie is also a really good option too. Meal prepping, I cannot. Yeah, like you need to meal prep. It's just one of the best things that you can do, especially if you're time poor. Really important. So try and include a portion of fatty fish like salmon or mackerel into your meal prep as well. And then spice it up. Like I mentioned before, like more the merrier. Add those spices into soups, stews, teas, like your ginger, your turmeric. Yeah. Andie, what are some of the lifestyle habits that you would say support an anti-inflammatory lifestyle?
Yeah, so I think the first and foremost, would be regular exercise. It doesn't have to be anything outrageous. It can be moderate physical activity that's regular and consistent, like walking, yoga, swimming, for example. Now, we do know that exercise reduces inflammation in the body, and that is independently of the benefits of any weight loss that might happen due to that exercise. So we do know that moving the body every day is a very good thing. So yes, regular exercise for sure. And I mean, ideally, as we go through Tegan in our Balanced Bodies program, ideally it's a mixture of those cardiovascular type exercises and some weight training as well, which can have huge benefits, not just for inflammation, but healthy aging and everything else. Stress management is the other one that's really important. So if we can practice mindfulness, meditation, deep breathing exercises, gratitude. There's a great body of research around the benefits of gratitude each day. It's not just a buzzword. So it's not just for Instagram influencers, it's for everybody. And the other one...
Can I just jump in on that as well? Just on that gratitude thing.
Yeah.
I have been meaning to do this for so long. And every night this last week, I've been writing in my diary. Because I've never used to write in a diary, but I've been writing things that I am grateful for at night. And then in the morning, I've been waking up and writing down what I'm looking forward to each day.
Yeah.
And I just jot down 3 things. Takes me 30 seconds. For someone that doesn't do a lot of that stuff, I'm just I'm going to keep it simple. But it's been a really good practice so far.
Yeah, that is so great, Tegan. And also that you've just found the space to do it also. So it's sort of like a bit of a habit stack, isn't it? When you go, oh, okay, yes. I'm going to go to bed and then I'm going to do my gratitude. I'm going to wake up in the morning, not reach for my iPhone first thing. I'm going to read my things that I'm grateful for. It also blocks out negative thoughts and emotions, and we know that can have an effect on inflammation as well, among a lot of other things. So yeah, that's really important. I think that's great. Quality sleep is the other one. And I know that we talk about this a lot, and I know that it's not even always possible. Coming from a parent of 2 children, I've had my sleep interrupted for the last nearly 6 years. But having said that, aiming for 7 to 9 hours of restorative sleep each night is really important. Less sleep, people who sleep less have higher inflammatory markers in their body. So we just know that there's a correlation between those two. So those are the things. And then Tegan, I guess, do you have any examples of anti-inflammatory meals?
Oh, yes, I do. So I'm going to go through some, but before I do, just so you know, we will pop these into the show notes. So if you do want to screenshot them for later on, you can. Anti-inflammatory meals, some breakfast options. Things like oatmeal are a great option, but you make it anti-inflammatory by adding some berries, some chia seeds, sprinkle of turmeric, add fibre such as flaxseed into it as well. At lunch, so a salad mixed with greens, avocado, cherry tomatoes, walnuts, like a turmeric-ginger dressing, and then adding some kind of protein in there as well, whether it's a bit of fish or a bit of chicken, tofu, legumes. Dinner, grilled salmon with a side of quinoa and steamed broccoli, seasoned with some garlic and olive oil. That sounds delicious. And then snack ideas. Snacks, yeah, so simple. And we want to make things simple, right? We all lead super busy lives. We need meals to be simple. What are some anti-inflammatory snacks? Well, things like a fruit and nut mix, so a combo of almonds, walnuts, dried berries, veggie sticks with hummus, so things like carrot, cucumber, bell peppers or capsicums, sticks with a turmeric-infused hummus, green tea and dark chocolate. This is my favorite one. Enjoying a cup of green tea with a piece of dark chocolate. So aiming for something that's got about 70% of cacao or higher. And Andie, how do anti-inflammatory foods differ from pro-inflammatory foods? I think this is a really good one.
Okay, so anti-inflammatory foods are generally what we discussed above. They're generally whole foods, they're unprocessed, they're high in antioxidants, they're high, or a lot of them are high in healthy fats. Basically everything we need, all the nutrients we need circulating through our body to reduce inflammation. These also, when you go into the supermarket, they happen to be, a lot of them are around the perimeter of the supermarket. So for example, when you walk into a supermarket, you generally go into the fruit and veg aisle first. And then you go to the meats, and then you go to sort of dairy and etc. And they tend to be less processed. Everything we eat is processed, but well, not everything, but a lot of the things we eat that are healthy are processed, but minimally processed, using good processing techniques, and then hopefully the whole food. When you buy a carrot, it doesn't need an ingredients list because it's just a carrot. So whereas pro-inflammatory foods are typically highly processed. They're high in refined sugars, they're high in unhealthy fats, which do cause inflammation, so trans fats, for example. Now, these are usually found in the middle of the supermarket, in the aisles. They're generally found in snack foods, lots of packaged foods. They've got things added to them that make them very palatable, so you always want more of them, which is one of the issues. If we could stop at one, then it would be okay, but some of them are made to be so palatable that you don't want to stop eating them. And they are just, they're just things that we don't want more than 5 to 10% of our diet to be taken up with. Of course, we're all human. We need to reach for convenience foods occasionally. We do so socially as well when we're meeting up with our friends. So by all means, just keep them minimal. So, and that just brings me to the importance of a balanced diet. So also prioritizing the anti-inflammatory foods crowds out some of the refined sugar foods and the processed foods as well. So you just don't have room for them essentially. So you're crowding them out. But also having those kind of displaces eating the other things. So you might not eat as much as you need of those unprocessed foods if you're filling up your body with lots of processed foods, which are pro-inflammatory.
Beautiful. Okay, well, I think that brings us to the lifestyle changes to reduce inflammation. And the first thing I'm going to chat about is the importance of regular physical activity. So I know Andie covered this a little bit before, but we really wanted to go into the hows and the really why it is just so important. Like, we know that you know that you need to get regular physical activity, but understanding why can maybe give us a little bit more drive to do that. So first of all, it's going to improve circulation. So exercise boosts blood flow, delivers oxygen and nutrients to tissues, which can help reduce inflammation. It reduces our stress hormones. This is why I exercise, by the way, to reduce my stress. I don't care about weight loss. Okay, yeah, I do want to build muscle, but I just want to manage my stress. So that is why I exercise. And we know that it lowers levels of cortisol, which is a hormone that is linked to inflammation. It enhances our immune function, so regular exercise supports a healthy immune system, which can directly help manage inflammation. So there is that direct relationship between exercising and the reduction of inflammation beyond just the weight loss benefit. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk a little bit more about, and again, Andie touched on this before, was stress management techniques. So things like your meditation, yoga, deep breathing. So meditation is just going to help calm your mind. It reduces cortisol levels, promotes an anti-inflammatory environment in the body, and gratitude, like you mentioned before, Andie, it's not just a buzzword. It's really something that we recommend everybody to do. And like I said, I've just started doing this myself. It's one thing, we know the things, but sometimes we don't always put the things into place, do we, Andie?
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
Which is why
yes.
some sort of guidance or plan is a key.
Exactly right. Yeah. And, I think we've both been to see other naturopaths ourselves because, yes, we know the things, but sometimes we just need somebody else to tell us to do the things and set a plan for us.
Could I also add?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, but when we are talking about regular physical activity and techniques to reduce stress, like our world makes it quite difficult to fit those things in. We have 9 to 5 jobs, so we're often left with the dark part of the day to exercise. Our jobs are increasingly and mostly sedentary, so we're mostly sitting down, and it's very hard to fit in meditation, yoga, those sorts of things as well. And so I guess we just have to do our best to kind of push back in a way. And also other little things, like it's much easier for us to get in a car and drive somewhere than walk or ride our bikes because we're time poor. And there's loads of other decisions, other factors that go into that decision. So, society makes it a little bit hard. So we do have to kind of rise up to that hard sometimes and just fit it in.
Yeah, definitely. And we don't have to make all these changes all at once.
No.
Like, Pick one thing. Like, we've still got a couple more things to touch on today, but just even if you take one thing from this and work on it for the next month, awesome. And then add something else in when you're ready to. Doesn't all have to be at once. So back to those stress management techniques. We talked about meditation, yoga, so combining physical activity with mindfulness, improving flexibility, help to reduce stress-related inflammation. Deep breathing is amazing for your nervous system. It counteracts the body's stress response and lowers inflammation. So, Andie, could you touch on a little bit more about sleep and a little bit more about environmental toxins?
Yes, absolutely. So both really important. The first one is, quality sleep and what's its impact on inflammation. As I mentioned before, we do know that those who sleep better have lower levels of inflammation. So that is just a correlation that has been found. During restorative sleep, so sleep is restorative. During deep sleep, the body repairs tissues and reduces inflammatory markers. It also helps with hormone regulation, which is really important to lower inflammation. And we know that certain hormones help influence inflammation, such as cortisol and melatonin. And so when they're balanced and doing the right things and rising and falling at appropriate times, that can contribute to lowering inflammation. Immune support as well. So good quality sleep strengthens the immune system, which, as we know, aids in the management of inflammation. So, sleep's important. Reducing exposure to environmental toxins. So clean air, so even using air purifiers to avoid exposure to pollutants and allergens that can trigger inflammation can be a really good idea. Safe household products, so choosing natural cleaning products where possible, avoiding chemicals that can contribute to an inflammatory response. And also things like using a glass container rather than a plastic container to warm up your food or store your food. Check the coatings on your pots and pans. Your cookware is not always the safest, so make sure those coatings are safe. And we've got healthy eating, so that can help reduce your environmental toxin exposure. Opt for organic foods where possible. Now, that doesn't mean you have to have a completely purely organic diet, but just where you can, that reduces exposure to pesticides and additives that can cause inflammation. Filtering your water can be important as well, otherwise your body becomes that filter. And so, filtered water can be a good option as well.
Yeah. That's a really good point, Andie, is your body becomes that filter. And, if it was just the water, that's okay,
Yes.
sure. But there's so many other things that our body is having to filter that, let's help it out a little bit.
Exactly, because our body is a filter, right? It's got a liver and that's literally its job. But if there's lots and lots and lots of stuff to filter, we either need to support the liver or reduce the toxic load.
Yeah, a bit of both.
Bit of both.
Yeah. So that brings us to the end of today's podcast. Now, if you're currently listening to it, we have probably dropped this into 3 separate sessions because it was a long one. But we did want to put it to our listeners that if you have any questions about inflammation or anti-inflammatory approaches or anything else for that matter that you would like to know about, send us a message on Instagram and let us know, because we would love to answer some of your questions in this podcast. And just to really recap, what we have chatted about is understanding inflammation and the anti-inflammatory approaches. So we talked about what is inflammation, acute versus chronic inflammation, and the difference between those, acute being that we need that inflammation, and chronic is when it turns chronic and becomes a problem. We chatted about causes of inflammation as well as the anti-inflammatory diet and lifestyle. And there's so much to this. I think we could keep talking about this for a few more hours, but we won't because we don't have time to talk about it for a few more hours. Yeah. And you probably don't have time to listen to us for a few more hours, so we'll keep it short and sweet. We chatted about how to incorporate those anti-inflammatory foods and lifestyle factors into our life as well. And yeah, that pretty much brings us to the end. Andie, is there anything else that you wanted to mention?
Just wanted to reiterate what you said earlier, Tegan, about choosing one thing and trying to implement that. So I think we often get overloaded by inflammation and or anything really, any topic. And so choosing one, maybe it's I will walk for 20 minutes each day at this time slot that suits me. And then just try and stick with that for a few weeks, see how you go, and then you can start implementing other things along the way.
Yeah. If that's one thing that you can take away, is just take one thing away.
One step at a time.
Yes. Now we do have some resources available for you as well. So I've popped in a link for a free anti-inflammatory meal plan. So some delicious recipes that you can follow along with that meal plan or just take some of the recipes out of. I also have a Facebook group on the anti-inflammatory diet and lifestyle where we share recipes and information. So I'll pop a link to that if you would like to join as well. And like we said before, please submit your questions for future episodes. And please, if you could, give us a 5-star review. We would love that. We would love to keep making these podcasts. And we will speak to you soon.
Thank you. Bye.